I would suggest we start with that review of where each of us sees we're at.
Yeah, exactly. For me also, the purpose of this conversation is to lay the foundation for the development of an AI tool and interface for Coherence 2025. So it would be nice if we give a brief explanation of the model, the concept, and how the AI tool plays into that, and then do some co-envisioning, sharing our perspectives, sharing what we see, what it looks like, and how we would like to develop that by calling in partners. Yeah, maybe in this conversation we even come to new insights of what it would look like. How does that sound? Perfect.
Good.
Nice.
I'm at your mercy, Bart.
Nice. Thank you, Christine. Victor, would you like to briefly describe the model for Coherence 2025? And then from there we can segue into the AI
Sure.
agent interface.
So this conversation is intended to be published, right?
Yes, exactly.
So I'll take a minute or two longer than I would just for you two. So coherence, it's important to see coherence as two things. One is a general idea of getting a group, a field of people to cohere and share ideas. And the other one is the concrete conference that we're using this technology for and running. And this Coherence 2025 was actually two. There's the MVP, the one experiment that we're running in spring, and then with the goal of doing a much bigger one in the fall, really pulling in all of the key players. It seems like every time I open LinkedIn, I don't know if you guys saw the article today, but every time I open LinkedIn, people are saying, this is important, we need to be talking about this. So it's really nice to be getting mainstream validation of these ideas. So coherence, bunch of people having conversations, but not just general conversations, collaborative conversations. So conversations where people are searching to learn from each other and to create trust and relationships, which can then lead to some sort of collaboration. So the kinds of conversations I think all of us now are having in private to one degree or another within a team, but also very much across organizations. It's become so easy to have these conversations, and we have a lot of these conversations, but then how the hell do we synthesize it? And also, how do we enable these private conversations to be available to the field and to the bigger group? Because everybody's having lots of intelligent conversations. So right now, if we look at the world, we have podcasts, like really designed for broadcast medium, and we have private conversations. So coherence kind of sits in the middle of that space where we bring the kinds of conversations which are now happening in private, but do them in public. One of my big inspirations is build in public. Have you guys come across that idea? So in a way, coherence is a way of doing build in public at ecosystem or field scale. So get all of these amazing people around the theme. In the case of Coherence 2025, it's Wise AI and collaboration tech. So the technologies which are driving how we work, how we sense make together, collective intelligence, all of those things, with the understanding that it's really important that we do this consciously and think about where we're going, not just keep on driving the bus at high speed with the front window blocked. So we have all of these amazing conversations that we're gathering. We have the transcripts, we have the rights to publish them and the rights for the AI to process them. How do we generate collective intelligence, which to me means both synthesis of the ideas as well as recommendations for who to talk to. So at a very simple level, I'm interested in how to monetize privacy-centric software. Which conversations cover this? Or I would like to do a regenerative startup. Who would be a good advisor, right? So finding ideas, but also finding people that might have relationships with. I think if we do this well, it could end up as being the next thing after LinkedIn, an addition onto, right? Because right now LinkedIn is great, but it's search circa 1999, right? You know, you put in and you search people, right? Like everybody's there and there is so much amazing people, but actually getting past data, it's just data and information. There is no knowledge or wisdom, ability to process what's in LinkedIn.
Nice. Thank you, Victor. I think that's great to further build on. I think we can expand a little bit on what we see this AI agent do. Maybe it's nice to pass the ball to Christine. I don't know, have you read both my writing and Victor's writing, the drafts for this AI agent?
Yeah, I did. When you first posted
Maybe you
it,
can just, maybe you can share your reflections based on what you've read there, what's your interpretation so far, and yeah, you feel free to add your own thoughts to it.
Okay. I probably need to review it again, like right now, actually, in this meeting. So that might be a good move to pull that up.
Yeah. And
Okay.
in the meantime, by the way, I would love to hear any reflections on my little blurb. Was there anything that you guys thought was unclear or anything that particularly resonated or didn't resonate?
Well, maybe I don't know if this was exactly clear from your sharing, but so there is like the larger model for coherence to bring people into conversations that lead to collaborations and kind of connect ecosystems. So we're developing a model. At the same time, we have this current MVP that we're running where we focus specifically on projects and companies that are developing tools for conscious collaboration and wise AI. Right, so there is a specific focus of the kind of ecosystem we want to highlight right now, but in the long run, this will also be a model that can be applied for any kind of ecosystem.
Exactly. Yeah. I tried to highlight that at this stage that coherence is a technology and an instance of that technology. So the hope is we're going to be trying to set up and build a startup around the coherence technology. I see it as a perfect ingestion engine of taking things out of people's heads and into sharing it with the world and each other, but also very much the AI. So where I see the money coming, because conferences are nice, but they're hard work and they're not a lot of money, where I see it as having a big commercial opportunity is if you think about it, the next wave is going to be all companies are going to try and AI themselves, right? The same way there was let's digitize companies. The next thing is going to be AI companies. Well, guess what? Most of an organization doesn't live in documents, rule books, or even emails. It lives in people's heads. So the question of relationships, who knows who, like the real gold, the diamonds value of a company is actually relational as in people's heads. So how are you going to get it out of people's heads and into the AI? Well, you're going to try and get people to write book length descriptions. It's not viable. But getting people, conversations are great. We're very good at conversation, right? With a little bit of prompting of good questions, people can go very deep quite quickly. So I think as the ingestion engine of generating the knowledge of what an organization is, an organization or an ecosystem or any kind of a field, I think that's where coherence will be really valuable. You know, and I can think of use cases such as Imagine the mayor of a small city would like to really understand what the business people in the city think, feel, and need, right? What you can do a survey, it doesn't come out, but get everybody to have a conversation with another business person that's down their street, and you will generate a treasure trove of understanding that is impossible using today's technology.
Hmm. I think that there's something there where we are taking it to a new relational dynamic as well. Like we're acknowledging that the AI will do work that human to human interaction won't do and can't do. And yet we still want to keep the human to human interaction as the core part of the process.
Yes, exactly. And it's not that the humans can't do it. We can, but we can only do it at smaller scales, right?
Hmm.
If you had a village 100 years
Yeah.
ago, every business person knew every other business person. They knew who was trustworthy. They knew what the problems were. They got together once in a while and said, like, we got to fix this or that, right? What we're trying to do is scale trust and relationality to the modern society and eventually to global scale. So we're trying to take those best of human ability to collaborate and relate and scale it and enable to spread it, right? Because also, if you look at that example of that small town, those people grew up with each other. They knew each other most of their lives, right? Once in a while, somebody would come out of town and it was a big deal and and then they got, but most of the people knew each other most of their lives. So trust, expectations, culture, all of this was really baked in. That's very, very far from our experience today. People are moving around, So I see it as taking those very, very human abilities and enabling them to scale.
Yeah, I think this is indeed the power of what we're tapping into here, is to use a very organic way for people to relate and communicate, and kind of weaving in the technology and AI to build a collective intelligence that we would normally also do, but through a lot of conversations. And now we kind of amplify that and make it available more easily to others. And since, like we're also in a digital space, we're connected to way more people. It's less easy to kind of sit around the campfire with each other, so this is a very convenient way to spread these conversations through digital landscapes and larger networks.
Yeah, I saw a piece by Nate Havens on his podcast last week or this week about how our relational, the relational parts of Overshoot are also extremely unsustainable. So the way that our nervous systems and our brains are getting fried by these thousands of meaningless contacts with random people and random engagement that doesn't actually deepen to the level that humans require. So that feels relevant too.
Yeah, definitely. Exactly. Yeah, we can have so many conversations. It also connects to the whole, the dopamine connection hit that Facebook gives you, which is now well studied and well documented, right? Just like you're the little monkey getting the little drops of crack into but it leaves you shallow. And after the end of a 1 hour, 2 hour social media session, you just feel more hollow and drained and more lonely vis-a-vis spending an hour with another human being, which even if they're annoying, you still feel connected and socially enriched, right?
Yeah. One other aspect that I like to highlight, which I think is very interesting, is an AI's ability to kind of sense the health of an ecosystem based on a bunch of conversations, so that we can basically map ecosystems or organizations in this very organic way. and be able to show like what are common needs or patterns within this ecosystem or network, what are the strengths, what are the challenges, and in that way very easily be able to map an ecosystem. And like this may be a little bit further down the road, like once we know what isn't healthy ecosystem, that the AI can also make recommendations on how to make this ecosystem stronger by bringing in other kind of stakeholders, or suggest connections within the ecosystem, which is something we want to do in the shorter run. But I think that's very powerful. Like, okay, how do we actually make this ecosystem stronger? Like once we know what it is, like how can we improve it? So I think that's where the real magic and value lies. And I don't know, once we will get there, this might take a little bit more development time, but I just want to put it down here also for potential collaborators that are maybe already developing tools in this direction, because that's in the end the point, to call in development partners that want to work on this, to develop this with us together. What's your thoughts on
Yes,
that? Maybe also
defi-
from your experience.
definitely. And connecting exactly with what you said, what are the gaps, right? What are the conversations we're not having? And then it will take longitudinal data, because organizations, you really need to observe an organization for a few years. But imagine we are tracking the conversations of hundreds, thousands of organizations and know which conversations they're having. And then it will take a few years, but we'll be able to see you are having these conversations, but not these ones at this stage of your development. That didn't end well, right?
Yeah, I just shared a resource in the chat. It's about a GroupWorks deck. So it's a deck of, I think, about 90 cards. It's a pattern language project. And, and this is connected to this group in Canada that I've also been mentioning a few times, that they're like a little AI and us working group. And I met with them. We put in a proposal to Singularity Net a few months ago, but we didn't progress. But one of our friends also did manage to get his project funded with Singularity Net. Victor Piper. I'm not sure if I think you guys know him. But anyhow,
I know
these
him.
other, yeah, Bart, I think Bart knows him. So there was this idea we were developing with this pattern language around relationships, relational dynamics. So there's a lot of people who have put in deep work already and haven't translated that over to the AI realm yet, in terms of like relational patterning and like understanding dynamics within conversations and within groups. So we had actually looked at this idea of connecting this to like a custom, like a Zoom alternative. We were looking at just building like a video platform that would allow us to get off the corporate platform and have people engaging, and then build in like this API key with these relational pattern language type dynamics that would encourage people to try different perspectives on like during their conversations and during like a series of conversations. And one other piece from that was, sorry, I don't have the resource now, but I can dig it up. But there's also, someone had developed, I don't know if it's a plugin or if it's an API or what, but it's very competent at reading emotional content of a conversation as well. So it's like a highly specialized tool that can
Even
review that.
that probably doesn't work with written transcripts, right? It would need to have the audio transcripts, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, I
yeah,
believe
okay. No,
so.
just to be clear on that.
Yeah. So in saying that, I think that there's different types of tools out there that we wouldn't have to pick one, but we could resource like a range of these and see what people wanted to do with them and try interactivity with these tools like in a digital space, moving them over from these like really down to earth, like community builder type people who have developed these tools, and then bringing that more digital.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I see coherence as being just one part of the puzzle and of bringing people into the conversations, which then all of these other tools can plug into. So I would really love, I mean, this small coherence MVP is going to be what, 50 conversations or something. So it's a small data set. But if we do the big coherence, or when we do the big coherence in the fall, when it's hundreds of conversations, maybe even thousands, then it's going to be a meaningful data set for people to work on. Uh, and yeah, I mean, I come, one of my change maker background. You asked me at the start of the conversation what my background is. So the change maker worlds that I've gone through is 2000. I started with money because there was like, what is money? Monetary ecology, Bernard Yeater, Hayek, 100 years of trying to reinvent money. Then I went through, because I've been interested in village building, I went through learning, I went through teal organizations, which is still a huge influence in my life. And actually, the reason that we're doing this coherence on AI and collaboration tech is I'm deeply in love, and I fundamentally believe that this is where human society has to go, these forms of collaboration. And yet I'm frustrated by 10 years of the movement not gaining any kind of attraction in the mainstream world. And I think part of the answer is that we need technologies to guide people and make it much easier, because there is all of those tools out there. There is 68 cards in the deck. Well, which one is relevant to me today now, right? And as an organization builder, I'm running around going mad with just my day to day. And my hope is that, yeah, the AI team coaches and all of this can be built. But coherence is the first step of just getting people into having the deeper conversations and storing them, organizing it, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I would say also there is a lot of value in the collaborative potential. Like I feel this is some a shared value within these regenerative ecosystems, the focus on collaboration. So I do feel we are quite advanced when it comes to collaboration, at least of having an understanding of how that can flow, and there is an intention and desire, there's shared purpose amongst us and a natural resonance. And I think we are being invited to use technology to leverage that often hidden potential and give it more visibility and structure and make it accessible for more people to step into. And I really hope and also see that with this we can bring a viable alternative also to the mainstream and show that this is not just some kind of hippie movement, but there is a lot of professionals working on this. And yeah, it's pioneering work. A lot of us do things differently. They aim to challenge the status quo, but also aim to make bridges with the status quo, right? It's not like we want to completely go our own way. We also understand that it needs to somehow merge, and that we need to work together with all the different components and stakeholders. So yeah, I really see this as something that Coherence can do, that it can show like all these smaller players that would otherwise not be so easily visible, and show like, hey, we're all kind of doing this together. And I don't even know where that's gonna lead us, but I think it will definitely strengthen our position.
Yeah. So there is also another key idea hidden underneath coherence, right? After 10 years, for some things, I remember, because a bunch of kids that were 2 years before me, 2 or 3 years before me in university, became the professors that taught Vitalik and others, their key players in crypto. So I remember in 94 sitting around, everybody telling me how crypto is going to change the world. Uh, and some things like HTTPS SSL have completely, and you can't even see them. And other things like blockchain have gone nowhere. But I've been watching this space for a long time, and I realized that this whole idea of if everybody used our platform, the whole world will change. It's just not a thing, right? It's magical thinking of this jump from the world as it is now, and then the whole world using my platform or my technology. It doesn't happen. So I think the adoption is a massive Achilles heel. And how do we get from here to there is a massive, massive challenge for all people inventing new systems. And that's why, yes, I would love everybody to be on a brand new, shiny, completely different collaboration platform. I also know it's very, very hard to get people to build new habits because it's about building new habits. But I also know if I ask most people, can you have 2 or 3 deep conversations with interesting people about things you care about? The answer is a good high 90% yes, right? And also people have become much more comfortable with being visible on the internet and so on and so forth. So I really want coherence to be the bar to entry to be as low as possible. Can you have a conversation with another human being? Usually yes. And then the technology plugs in and slowly pulls people on the journey. Oh, by the way, this conversation you had, these few other people also had, and da da da. And I'm hoping to open the door to a crack. And then, okay, maybe you'd like to collaborate. Here's some of those amazing collaboration platforms you could use, right? So, yeah, that's my kind of hope. Coherence will open and make it easier for people to take a step and become aware. Then the technology will, make them aware of these different things that they could use just by, participating in a few deep conversations.
Yeah, and that ties in also to this um, symbiosis between technology and culture and the development of consciousness. That it's not just about creating the new technologies; it's also about creating a new culture, and it's a bit of a chicken and an egg thing, right? Like maybe we first need to create this collaborative culture before we can actually create the tools and technology and the platforms that facilitate collaboration. At least it goes hand in hand. We need both of them.
Yeah. So, one thing, I had an epiphany recently. Would you like to hear it?
Of course.
So when people talk about singularity, right, the merging of man and machine, we have this idea of this cyborg and I got my brain plugged in here and all of this. And I think maybe we're looking at it wrong because a lot of our mistakes actually in our cognition is we look at the world as individual humans. But actual fact, the meaningful global impact when we function as human systems. So I think maybe the singularity is not going to be of a biological human with a machine. It's going to be human society with technology, with AI, which is already happening. So the AI, it's already shaping us unwittingly, right? It's shaping what you buy. It's shaping what you see on the internet, right? It's fucked up democracy and a bunch of other things, right? So we are already in the process of melding machine and human society. And at that level, it becomes much easier to trace. And what we are doing, I think, becomes even more important and significant. And I lost what the other point that you said that I want to connect with.
I don't know. I said something about culture and technology
Culture, yeah,
evolving
yeah, yeah.
together.
So this is why my belief now is that we can't wait for 50 years of philosophical development and then start. It's just not how it works. Technology races ahead. And if we don't intentionally apply the culture to the technology, it just ends up doing whatever the dominant culture is. I think crypto world is a really strong warning for all of us, right? It's the exact same fucking thing that happened to Moses. He left them alone. just for a few days to go up the island, to go up the mountain. And like he came back, what was everybody doing? Praying to the golden bull, all about money. What's happened to crypto, right? Like it's all just become more fancy ways of derivatives trading at best and more better, faster Ponzi schemes at worst, right? Because I'm a crypto maximalist. I believe it will be blockchain everything, but without application of the culture, intentional application, development of the culture of what is the world that we want to create, you just amplify the worst and simplest, basest instincts of the existing culture, right? So we just get more of the same shit. So we need both in concert. We don't have the luxury that the philosophers can do their thing and the technologists can do their thing, and once in a while they talk at a conference. No, it's got to be both developed in concert.
I'll give the space to you, Christine.
Well, yeah, thank you. I do agree that timing is a factor. Like initially I just had that feeling of how long should someone spend time in conversation versus in then like leaving off and going into the synthesis and then like moving through that in some sort of rhythm. And then I feel that there is a rhythm to that that would be optimal. And that it somehow fits with the speed of development as well, with what you're just both talking about.
Yeah, I just want to share one thing on the singularity aspect. Indeed, often it's seen as a very technological thing. I really hope, and this is my vision for the singularity, is that it's the moment where humanity can start acting as a single organism together with the planet. That's my vision for the singularity. So it's the moment where, yeah, all of these things come together, nature, humans, and technology. And I do think that we can start living the singularity at small by smaller groups of people that start living and breathing as one. And I feel that we're aiming to take a leap here in this initiative to bring an ecosystem together. And I don't know, like if we come to the point that it really starts operating as one, but that's if we talk about singularity, that's my vision, that's my aim, and I would love to see us prototype that and model the way so that it becomes accessible for more. And like once you can seed something in a small scale, that it can fractal out and it can be multiplied and embodied and practiced in other places until everybody lives in this culture, this singular culture, let's say, which is not just one thing. I also see a lot of diversity there, but there is like this underlying consciousness that can see everything as interconnected.
So yes, exactly, and it's exactly what I mean. That's exactly what I see as well, or what I dream of, and it connects for me totally with what I was saying about how we need to start thinking of humanity as a whole thing. And in order to function at that scale, we need the collective intelligence and ability to sense make, right? And that's exactly what coherence aims to contribute to. What I do have doubt about now is the scale question. Because I've seen, and again, you look at certain worlds, like you look at money. Money is an interesting one because when you start looking at it for there's 100+ years of very, very smart people coming up with new designs for the monetary system. And none of it managed to get deployed. There were small experiments here and there, and they all got crushed because you need a certain scale in order to be able to deploy a monetary system. That's why I didn't go in that direction, because I don't see how we're going to get from here to there. Certain things need larger scale. And also my hope my contribution that I want to add to this, to the coherence conversations, is to really start pushing people to talk and think about how do we create technologies, and how do we deploy to the first 1 billion, right? How do we go from 0 to 1 billion people using a particular technology or technological paradigm, right? And I think I see, again, I come from a technical background. I've been around technologists, I've been around change makers, and everybody is like, oh, I'll make my own village, and then I have to buy land and all of this. And these are beautiful projects. We need many millions of those, but we also need some people to be going, how do I create a tool? And how do I go from here to 1 billion people using it? Not in the sense of hubris or in the sense of, I want to get rich, or, I want to get my face on the, but like global, if we want global scale impact, we need global scale technologies, and we need to spread ideas at global scale. And of course, I very much hope that we can spread things in such a way that they're not a globally unifying force, but that they're globally unified in a way that strengthens local diversity. So, I think conversations are pretty fundamental technology. Coherence can be global. The contents of those conversations will be individual to each ecosystem, each company, etc. So, yeah, I want to see more people thinking big, like, yeah.
I like that. And I would also say that I think we cannot know yet. That's kind of the whole point of this. Like we're really in the unknown together, and no one can fully see the future. We can just see glimpses and learn to follow our heart and intuition and find the right people to work with and take it like that, step by step. At the same time, I love to think big and open these pathways. And one thing that comes up that we were talking also with Christine and Merlin in another conversation is that instead of having one AI to rule them all, also that in the AI landscape there will be a big diversity, and rather you will have a lot of these AI agents that are being trained by communities, and then these AI agents, they can interact and connect and share and kind of collaborate as some kind of network stewards alongside humans, of course. But if you want to talk about scaling and going big, then, taking the coherent concept, applying it to many different networks and communities, and then having an AI agents that can interconnect them, I think that will easily scale to 1 billion. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, two things. First of all, very much exactly what you said about each community or company training its AI. This is exactly what I hope coherence will enable, right? Everybody have a few conversations with guided questions and of the right depth, and then you'll get the AI that reflects your community, right? I mean, I can't imagine a more lower barrier to entry than that. So it's very much enabling that I hope coherence will get to. And then taking the best of your community and your culture, and then allowing you to plug into best practices from others as you choose. And coherent scaling, I think that connects, something that I've noticed, and maybe it's in our privileged white people Europe bubble, but finding the right people to collaborate with, actually, I see a lot of us struggling with, right? People who get shit done, because I'm not saying that thinking massive big is the only way. We need lots of people thinking very local, creating very local projects, organic food, villages, and so on and so forth. We need at all levels. So first thing is, how do you find the people that are excited and are operating at the size that you're excited about? And then along the culture and all of this, right? This is, it's inevitable downside, or the inevitable challenge of diversity is the more diverse we are, the harder it is to find people that we are really deeply compatible with across all cultural levels so that we can collaborate. And that's where, yeah, I also hope Coherence will kick in, allowing more people to find the people that they are really, that they will be powerful collaborators for them.
Yeah, I guess that's something to be seen, and I do feel that's something where we are putting most focus now is like how to facilitate the social architecture also of this coming together, inviting people into conversations and giving the right prompts and figuring out who to talk with who, using technology to support in the matchmaking, but also use human components, letting people suggest who should talk to who. And yeah, maybe from here we can focus in a little bit more on this AI tool and what we need for that and the development partners we're calling in. Because that's something we don't necessarily have the expertise in-house, but we see it as a key component. And considering everything that we've shared, I think it also shows where we want to go. Yeah, is there anything you guys would like to add in terms of what you see this AI agent slash interface do? We already discussed a bunch of things, but maybe there's something missing
Maybe
just to
now,
complete the
Christine,
picture.
now is the perfect time for Christine to pull up the document, maybe even screen share. I don't know if you like, and walk us through it. I think in the end, your document part is the authoritative because I added to yours, or
I saw it. Yes.
Okay.
What do you say,
Give me a
Christine?
sec. So we just have that, it's a fairly short document, right? This one here, AI synthesis RFP.
that's the one that I
Uh,
wrote. The one,
Okay.
the one, the good looking one is mine. The less good looking one is Bart.
whoa, 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 whoa.
No, come on.
Wow.
Like, I'm sorry.
How did
I'm
that
an
happen?
asset. Your document was just standard formatting. Mine is prettier.
I beg to differ. Um,
I'm just talking
Right.
about the
So
look, not the context, right? I think the contents of yours was fairly aligned with mine. I don't think there's anything
I
much.
think so too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
content as I think they're pretty much the same. Maybe you had some more details. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think there's a few more details in there.
So maybe if Christine doesn't have it in hand, you can pull it apart.
Yeah, yeah, I'm already pulling it
yeah,
up.
I think mine, I don't think I'm good at screen sharing, sorry.
Shall I take over? Or what do you
Hmm.
suggest, Christine?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have it handy. It's a duocracy.
Um,
Whoever is closest to it.
yes,
By
all
the way,
right.
I don't know.
My internet.
I hope it's okay. It's too late now, but I'm doing my singularity merging with nature by taking this call, walking through the forest.
Yeah, I love it. That's great.
That's that's exactly what I wanted to say before, actually, because I have this piece of coral that I'm holding while we're talking, and I was just
Ah,
thinking, like,
beautiful.
for me, like the thing that creates coherence the most is nature. Like without the right interactions with nature, like our minds become all sorts of chaotic and mushy. So that's like my bedrock.
Yeah, we
Nice.
we lose touch, and having had this piece of land that I'm stewarding now for 2 years, and coming here for 2 years, what? Because I grew up in a city in an apartment with not much nature around. But just like start to see the cycle. So it's like, oh yeah, these flowers are coming up again. nature really does a huge job in connecting you to a circular time and also to a very different time, right? You plant trees, it goes on a very different time scale than other things. So for sure.
Yeah, let's see how we can weave that into the coherence model. That part of it, like in between any conversation, you need to at least have an interaction with nature.
So
Maybe we can give people prompts for that.
I can tell you because our coherence is an event and coherence is intended as an event that immediately connects you with circular time, right? Because nature, there's almost nothing that has a constant flow in nature, right? Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. You don't hold your breath forever. And events actually are very important in that sense. And they're rooted in religious things which were connected and rooted in the cycles of nature naturally. So just the fact that coherence has a beginning and an end, and maybe it comes regularly, that already connects you with an important aspect of nature.
Yes.
So back to
Nice. Nice. Thanks. All right. So, what we're doing, we're recording and publishing 50 conversations with leaders working in collaborative technologies. These are very rich conversations with a lot of insights, shared challenges, and patterns of collective intelligence. And to make this wisdom more accessible and actionable, we aim to build a lightweight AI-powered synthesis agent that helps to identify, summarize, and interact with key insights across the ecosystem. And so the objectives for the alpha version that we built for this MVP is one that can enable conversational interaction with the knowledge-based chatbot or search interface, just like ChatGPT. We'd like to create automatically summaries and thematic insights across conversations. Help users discover people, projects, and conversations relevant to their interests. So basically you can search for any kind of theme or topic, and then it will guide you to conversations in which that is being discussed and the people and projects that talk about that. And then more precisely, Victor added to find relevant parts of conversations. I think that's a really cool one. I don't know if that's how feasible that is, but should be.
I mean, because the transcript has timestamps.
It's times, yes.
And then you can just make a URL to a particular spot in a YouTube video. It actually shouldn't be technologically hard, but it'll require some work on their side, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, is there anything to add to that? This in terms of the objectives for the alpha version? Or are we good?
Like how might people track their own journey in this? Is there any other tool, or would we expect them to do that themselves somehow?
Can you say a bit more about track their own journey? I don't think I understood.
Yeah, I think like as your concepts and your conversations evolve, you're going through a process or you're experiencing a range of things. So usually people like to bring that down to earth and try to make sense, fit in with what they already know or what they're working on. So at the moment, I think we're imagining that everyone goes away and does that separately outside of the coherence structure.
So you mean to facilitate next steps that people can take based on the information they find? Is that
I
right?
think it's possible. Like, I'm not sure if that's in the MVP, but I think that there's definitely a lot of scope for what people do between conversations. And then after they've hit a certain amount of conversations, like when they just organically feel, okay, I'm ready, I've arrived somewhere where I need to be, And then how do we know that? Like if they just drop off the conversation mill at that point, we wouldn't actually know what happens from all of that work.
Yeah, so basically make the interaction more focused and directional and kind of close the loop instead of letting it be an open loop and we don't know really what's happening there. So
Mm.
yeah, be able to check like did people find what they were looking for, do they know what to do next, and also maybe that we can somehow track that or more specifically guide them through these next steps.
Well, I think it's perfectly fine too if we invited people to record a solo video like as a reflection piece, like after they've done say like 10 conversations. Like that might be just one idea of how to capture the
I think
synthesis.
it sounds really cool. I think we should probably have like a future ideas section and
Mm.
a MVP section. What I am hearing and thinking, reflecting on what you said, I think what we should definitely have is finding some way of either visualizing or describing the relationality between one conversation and all the other conversations. So then, I've taken part in this conversation. Given this conversation that I've had, which parts of it relate how to the other conversation, something like that. Because for the MVP, we're going to have 3, 4, 5 conversations per project. So it's not a huge data set in terms of longitudinal, but each conversation is deep. So it's deep. So I
Yeah.
would suggest short term, the relationality between one conversation, topical relationality between one conversation and the other one. And then long term, like Christine said, of helping people find their way in the journey. And
Yeah.
that can be, yeah, I haven't even begun to thought about it, but I think it can be very
No.
rich.
Yeah, and maybe this also ties into the question, like, what is actually the audience outside of the participants that will watch the recordings and interact with this AI chatbot? And I think we don't fully know yet. That's something to be explored. And I think depending on the audience, it will also influence the kind of journey and next steps that we will lay out for people. So maybe this is something for later, and it also ties into the engagement strategy, which we're currently developing for co-stewards and projects that participate in Coherence. But the same probably goes for the for other users or audience that is just simply witnessing and wants to be involved somehow. And I think for that we need to further define what are the ways that people can get involved, and then we can integrate it in the AI agent. Does that make sense, Christine? How does that sound?
Yeah, it sounds like there's some things that are possible on this level at this point. So I
By
wouldn't be
the
the one
way,
to decide that.
did you write this part or you just talked it and we're going to have to fish it out as the recording?
Yeah, I can fish it out and later update the document.
Okay, you just gave yourself homework. Good luck.
Well, we need to update this anyway, but yeah, okay. Maybe from here I'll take direct notes. I just wanted to listen and be present. Um,
Yeah, it's a collaborative conversation though. So yeah, I just know that whenever I give myself homework, it's more cognitive load. By the way, have you guys heard my little tirade about homework yet? It's 1
no.
minute. So what did everybody hate about school? At least for many people, it was homework. How the hell did we end up that our collaboration involves getting together for an hour to give each other homework? How did we
Right,
end up
yeah.
here? Something is wrong with this. We took the part of school we hated the most and we amplified it into our whole lives. That doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, I want someone to hold my hand while I'm doing homework. I don't want to be alone with the homework.
That's true. If you
Exactly.
do it together, it's okay. Yeah, I agree. Doing it together makes it so much more fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's it's definitely a thing.
Right, I made a quick note based on what we what we discussed.
Brilliant.
So to continue, yeah, some inputs Victor wrote down. So we have the transcripts, which are timestamped. There's names of the conversants, organization names of the conversants, LinkedIn URLs, and URLs of the organizations that are connected to them. And secondary, potentially documents about the projects and products the participants are working on. So this is basically pulled from our Airtable database, right?
Yeah, I mean the documents would be. It depends on who the AI that we work with is. If they say like, oh, if you could get some decks or some other documents, that would be great. Then we can ask the people who wanted to like, give us some key documents. But I think as a
Yeah,
baseline, just putting info off LinkedIn, since LinkedIn is the place most people have more or less something on. And it's also a standardized format, so it's easy to crawl and process.
yeah. One thing with the transcription, does it automatically recognize people that are speaking? Like, does it have a name or is it more like person one, person two? How does that work?
Good question. Add that as a note to me to look into.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Okay. Well, and then key use cases. So yeah, this is thematic synthesis. So being able to explore the ecosystem, the shared vision, the main strengths, recurring challenges, ecosystem needs. So that kind of that ties into the mapping also of the ecosystem. Um Natural language search. So yeah, you should be able to ask like, yeah, which projects are working on digital trust or interoperability or blockchain. Uh, and then generating short reports and dashboards to share key patterns and highlights. So this can be based on the first point, and for example, also maybe weekly newsletters or monthly newsletters with insights and new conversations. Uh, yeah, and ideally create dashboards eventually also somewhat visually to quickly illustrate the health of an ecosystem. I think that would be amazing. I don't know how far we can get with that. I think also for that we first need to determine what are these health indicators. So that's something to develop alongside. And I think, yeah, the more we understand about how an ecosystem functions and also what Christine mentions about these relational patterns, I think it would be amazing if we could do all kinds of analysis. But for now, we want to start, yeah, with some basic information, I guess, and over time we can make it more elaborate.
Yeah.
Uh, Anything you would like to add here?
One thing that's coming to mind is I feel like I hope this is taken in the right way, but I feel that there is somewhat of like a masculine approach to like outcomes and like connecting like and looking for like the action steps. And so I guess like looking at it from the other side, I'm wondering, are we sure that what we're building can stand alone as an artifact in itself, like as a worthy creation, not just something to take from, but to leave there as well?
Can you
Does
speak
that make
more?
sense?
Somewhat. I'd like to hear a little bit more. I think you're on an interesting thread.
I get the feeling that we are trying to create something that stands alone, that is like strong enough and complex enough to do a job that we're envisaging and that we can't do. And so it needs to have enough integrity in itself to get there and to be able to, I guess, self-propagate in a way or do some sort of dynamics that it has for itself. And I guess so I'm wondering if like we're just focusing on people taking away useful information for themselves. Does that mean they're like leaving that are they leaving enough in the repository for it to build?
Well, I mean, to begin with, their first contribution is, for there to be something, people need to contribute the conversations and the engagement, right? And what we build is the AI twin, so to speak, of the ideas inside the people's heads, right? In the conversations. I'm not sure if I'm speaking adequately to what you're raising.
Yeah, and so say like we're capturing all of that qualitative information that, as you say, that's the only way to really get that from an organization. And then I'm just not sure how it would internally self-organize to be the most effective for capturing that. I guess what I'm feeling is that the scaffolding needs to be there to build something that would be long term, rather than just going piece by piece, depending on who shows up.
So, I mean, three things, right? The first and most important part of scaffolding is who is invited into the conversation, right? So this is, for me, there's also something we didn't talk about, but for me, underneath coherence is this idea of a meta-narrative. And for me, meta-narrative is not something that writes, it's something that emerges from the sum total of the conversations, but conversations depend on who you invite. So first and fundamental scaffolding is who's invited to the conversations. Second fundamental piece of scaffolding is what are the themes, the questions that people are invited to talk about. And the third one is this, again, for me, a key thing of the coherence is I'm an events guy. Coherence is an event. So whether you do it for a month or 2 months or 3 months even, it's meant to have a beginning and an end. Because I have found that this is just absolutely critical for building engagement, for a new idea, and this and that. I can imagine that in the future there would be some version of it which was perpetual, which always ran alongside an organization. But right now, the way it's designed and intended is as an event. And it could be either a one-off online event by itself, like we're doing now, or what I want to do is I want to run a coherence around the physical gatherings. And I've already pre-sold this to half a dozen event organizers who love this as a pre-thing before a physical event, or it could be run as a one-time snapshot, AI snapshot of an organization if you're AIfying an organization. But the way it's designed currently, I'm not saying that that's the way it always has to be, but the way it's currently designed is as a one-off event.
Right. And so would there be a way that the wisdom lives between all of these events though?
But
And
that's
that
the
we're
AI
building
that we
something?
created, right? We've taken all of these conversations, they've been put into the synthesized AI, and forever you can query this AI and engage with that snapshot of that human ecosystem.
So the AI will be linking all of these diverse events and locations and subgroups.
So the AI right now is for the one event. how things connect across different separate events, I haven't spent any time or thought thinking about that. That would be next step. But yeah, that's the higher level of meta. And yeah, things will get really interesting and global scale there, but I haven't thought through it that at all. And maybe hopefully I won't have to. Maybe people smarter than me will come in by then and figure it out.
For sure. Yeah. We're just here to like get things moving.
Yeah. And I really see, for me, what I intention and what I hope the genius of coherence is how easy and joyful it is to enter and participate. And all of the hard AI stuff, there's people out there spending, like your average AI has got their seed round of 20 million or 100 million, you know, like there's people who have that level of funding that are thinking really, really hard about those hard problems. I think a lot of them aren't thinking about the soft problem of like how to actually get people to use it joyfully. And that's where I hope that coherence will come in.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I don't know if your point has been received sufficiently, Christine, because I also didn't fully get it. Maybe we can later riff on it a little bit more. Just want to know if it's good enough for
Yeah, let's keep
now.
moving. Yeah.
Yeah, good. But thanks for bringing in also the balance between the masculine and the feminine. I think that's good. That's why you're here probably as well, to bring that balance. So thanks for putting that in and on the table. And maybe also, like I think we're also open to hear from developers based on this, like what they see, what they hear, what they feel. Maybe they see other possibilities that we haven't seen yet. And so based on this, we want to work with a project which has developed a tool for such synthesis and would be excited to try it out on our data set. I made a quick what is it? Some kind of a suggestion with the help of ChatGPT, but I have no clue what kind of tools you would need. So yeah, rather we have something that's kind of off the shelf. People are already developing it and they want to give it a good test run. And this is a great start also for further collaboration. I think we highlighted where we want to go with Coherence as a model. So yeah, whoever steps in at this point can become a long-term partner, weaving in their technology, and yeah, kind of co-develop both the social as well as the technological aspect of it in this collaboration. Is that all? Yeah, we'd like to develop it quickly with whatever features there are right now. I think yeah, that's a good point to make. Like, let's start with where you are, just as we are where we are, and from there we can expand and further evolve. Yeah, basically already mentioned this. I think that's it. Anything else to say at this point? I'm gonna close the document.
I could throw something into the pool.
Please, Christine.
I had this idea a while ago of like a data alliance, and I wonder if that has some relevance here. And I think what I was imagining with that is like a conscious alliance between businesses or groups who wanted to not just pool their ideas, but potentially their data. Have you got blossoms in your hair, Victor?
Yeah, I have olive blossoms in my hair.
Wow, that's proper nature version.
So spring.
Uh,
Yeah. So what are your thoughts?
Can you elaborate a little bit more what you mean with the last part?
Hmm. Well, I think data, right, is a huge focus for a lot of big businesses and especially in the tech world. But most businesses will maybe become more aware about how what their data is worth and what strategies they need around it, how to maximize the value of it, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and I know there is some sort of platforms like Partnerbase in the mainstream world where like these businesses are able to connect, but I'm not sure at what level, like how deep they share
Actually,
like
the
the data.
interesting thing, did you see this stuff around? So actually, in some areas they share really deeply to the point, and then they look at the data to the point that they're being sued. I think it was like eggs, a bunch of other things in the US are being sued because effectively they become a cartel because they price fix, right? And they see everybody sees what prices everybody else has, and da da da. So that's
Right.
interesting. I mean, look,
Hmm.
I really, I would really like, and I mean, we're going to start framing the coherence as a business in the summer after the MVP is over. You're all invited if you want to participate. My personal hope was that coherence would be really shallow interface layer and all of that hard stuff we would plug into and multiple different tools and people that were working on that. Definitely, you're right. Like, how do you actually share this? And then, like you said, how do the AIs all interact and how does it all come together is a big and very technically interesting question. Let's see what partners. I would really hope somebody else is solving that problem and then coherence can just act as a partner and an interface. I really see in the kind of alternative change maker or open source world even two huge challenges. One is just general usability and lack of ability to focus on quality usability, and the other one is lack of focus on go to market and getting things widely into people's hands. Uh, I think what I'm interested in is dual use technologies, and I see coherence as a dual use technology, right? Like a big corporation will not put their coherence videos publicly on YouTube because they got 16 levels of security and all of
Hmm.
this. They will have it, all super gated. In the regenerative world, we're like, please, anybody listen to me, anybody out there, right? Which I hope will result once we have the ability to do this collective intelligence, because we'll be able to do collective intelligence at a huge ecosystem scale across all of the organizations deeply. It will enable us to outcompete the mainstream world. But I think we need to build tools which the mainstream world can also use, dual use technologies, because that's where the money is. And we need to get to the big funding in order to build a high quality tool. So this is kind of my hidden secret agenda, is that we can build tools which enable the corporates to work a little bit better, but when put in the regenerative open context, will like really.
Yeah, I think this is very interesting, and I know a few people that are working on this, like data commoning, data sharing, data commoning. And I would say we're focusing first on this more built-in public version. But yeah, as we work with organizations that have maybe more data sensitivity, we need to create layers in there. I don't know. I think that will come quite gradually, but I think it's a very interesting adjacent topic and area to explore. So let's see if we can bring in some people that are working on this. I know at least Vincent Arena from Catalyst is very much focused on this. And uh, yeah, there's a bunch of others. I don't know which initiative you heard about. I think actually it was called, this project was called Coherence. They were working on interoperability data commons, so it's already in the name. I can definitely invite them to be part of this.
Yeah, this is also why I hope the topic of coherence as it is will enable to pull in all of these people into conversation and cohere, and we can figure it out, the
Yes.
genesis of the genesis.
Yeah, what if we all cohere a bit too much and we've got like this substrate like forming between our minds and we can't get out of it, the echo chamber? Like,
So,
'cause
I mean, this is where looking at success in the wider world is important, right? And it's like, what metrics of success or impact do you measure yourself against, right? And I think what you described, it's exactly what Web3 world or the crypto world has gotten into, right? You know, people are just trying to, you know, get more money out of their echo chamber and stuff. And the idea of having a bigger impact on the bigger world, it's like there's magical thinking of how we get from here to there. So also the way I like, I didn't bring in this little metaphor, but it's my favorite one, is my dream is that we learn to collaborate like a forest. If you look at the Amazon, it makes rain, it makes wind, it affects weather patterns halfway around the world. But there's no central tree or jaguar going around telling the ants what to do and the mycelium which way to grow, right? Everybody just gets on with their own shit. But somehow, in a way that it emerges and it functions as a much bigger thing. So that is my dream. And where coherence fits into that, for that to be able to, you need a much higher level of communication. If you look at collaboration between an economy as it is now, it's primarily mediated through money. Money is a form of communication around value, blah, blah, blah. It's a collaboration technology, but it's very limited, right? Uh, my dream is that with a much higher level of awareness of multi-value contribution and exchange in a collaboration in the regenerative world will become much richer and thus be able to create much richer collaboration ecosystems.
See.
yeah, beautiful. Probably my most
And
like far out thought, my but most far out thought would be like, what if coherence cohered enough energy and focus to say like revivify the coral reef in Australia, like the Great Barrier Reef, right? And like what that's like coherence that then forms like physical coherence in the actual living system. And like that's the kind of coherence like we're kind of in my mind aiming for in a way where we can stabilize all of those things that are out of coherence.
I love that.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, so that definitely somebody will do a coherence around ocean conservation and such. But
Mm.
because we are having much more sensing these days, of like physical sensors in the world, satellites, and all of this, we can, with the right way, we can personify that and bring that into the AI, into the conversation, right? So you can have the coral leaf,
Yeah.
or insofar as we're able to sense it and bring that reality and create a digital twin for it, it can become part of the conversation. And with the right thing,
Mm.
especially longitudinal data, if you have that, it's like 5 years ago I was feeling like this, now I feel like this, guys, you know? So that would be
Exactly.
really interesting.
Yeah, like it's a member at the table, like it's sitting there as a party to the table.
Very much. I mean, there
Yeah.
is a whole separate conversation, and this is the kind of people that I want to bring into the coherence, is that are working on an AI, Gaia AI, which can speak for the Earth, with the idea of you have it sitting on your board, an AI that represents the Earth. It could very much participate in the conversations. So yeah, this is, I hadn't thought about this, but going forward, I can entirely see, right? Having,
interesting. I had that insight last week. Exactly this. Like
No
this
way.
interesting
Yeah.
merger between nature and AI, you know, like the perfect collaboration, having an AI agent that represents nature in board meetings. I think that would be hilarious, actually.
yeah, I have a video I posted,
I
I
see
think
the humor of that.
or last year, and it's, you know, it's not crazy. And then
Makes
yeah,
sense. Yeah.
we can, yeah, I think. first we need to figure out how to create this meta synthesis, create a meta narrative from many voices, and then I think it's we think of an AI as a genius, right? Of this omnipotent, super intelligent power. But I think in many ways it would be maybe more valuable to think of it as a little child, in the sense of what we teach it is what it will become, right? So what we feel is what it will learn the world in reality is.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Maybe we can wrap it there. I think that's a beautiful ending.
Yeah.
Raising AI, and I think what we do with Coherence is creating this model in which we can raise AI as a community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there'll be a family of them, right? There'll be all different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any last words? Maybe for now, I can at least say we're calling in any development partners that feel inspired based on this conversation to join us, to reach out. We will probably also actively share this with potential collaboration partners. But if this has somehow come to you and you don't know us yet, then please connect. Anything else from you, Christine, Victor?
No, it feels like it was a very rich, very generative call, collaborative conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here with you guys. I feel like we got into the juice, so I'm feeling nourished by this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you.
See you soon.
That's it.
Bye.
Okay.
The recording has stopped.